Welcome to the PayTrace Power30, everybody. I'm your host today. My name is Sam Johnson. I'm one of the sales trainers here at PayTrace. And I was looking over the registration list and saw there's a lot of new names that I'm not familiar with. So for those of you that this is your first time to a Power30, special welcome. Just to set a quick agenda on what to expect over the next half hour, Power30s are basically your insight into PayTrace. We're going to give you a behind the scenes look into some of the things that we have going on. And we'll talk a little bit with some of the experts on these calls. We encourage you all to interact with us. You will notice that you are muted, right? As we're still, a lot of us working from home, we want to reduce a lot of that background noise. But you will notice if you move your mouse around the screen, you should see a Q&A box down at the bottom of the page. If you submit your questions in there, that'll go directly to me and our guest of honor today. So get those in early. We may not have enough time to get as many questions answered as we'd like to, but if they are not answered, we will follow up with you after today's call. So let's talk about our guest today. Some of you have probably interacted with him in the past. I'd like to welcome Kevin Hurd, PayTrace's Integrations and ISV Manager. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Sam, how you doing? Hello, everybody. Good to be back on the Power30 and to, talk to our partners out there that make us, that have helped us be successful here in PayTrace land.
That's right. Well, it's good to have you back. I think this is what, your third Power30 now?
Third Power30.
You're a veteran. This should go smooth.
Let's see. We'll knock on wood just in case.
Awesome. Well, before we get into like the real meat and potatoes of this, I always like to do a little introductory into our guests so you get to know them as a person and not just your title, right?
Sure.
So I've always considered you to be a barbecue aficionado.
Oh, buddy.
You know all the best barbecue joints around town. You've got the brisket on speed dial. I want to know, it's fall now. What the heck are you going to do?
Oh, man. That's a good question. What am I going to do? I'm going to do like the rest of us are doing right now while we're self-isolating, right? Start making that delivery. Take advantage of Postmates, DoorDash, Uber Eats. I got to still get it delivered instead of having to deal with the cold weather. So I think that's where I'm going to take it there.
I'm jealous, man. Our address is not registered on Google Maps for whatever reason. I fought that for years now, and I cannot use any of the delivery services. So
that you know what, Sam? That sounds like a reason to move.
I'm gonna get my snow tires on, and I'm just gonna go pick it up the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, man.
Well, good deal. Team, so I mentioned Kevin Hurd. He's our ISV manager. If you read the description of today's call, you'll probably notice that there's a flavor of EMV into this. And you're probably wondering, EMV and Integrations Manager, I'm not seeing the connection. Kevin.
Yeah.
What a lot of folks know, we just launched this new solution, EMV 2.0. How does API and integrations play into this?
That's a good question, Sam. So PayTrace, has just released EMV 2.0, where our ID Tech Augusta reader, a keyboard emulated keyboard device. Here it is, actually, right here for everybody to see. Do the hand movements nice? Did I do a great job? There you go. So PayTrace has released EMV 2.0 with the ID Tech Augusta device. We've actually now brought that functionality of EMV to our API. And what that means is that for our developers out there, for our software partners out there, this is a quicker path to be able to get to EMV and add that value to your application and add EMV functionality to your software. Even for some of those, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, that have been a bit timid, maybe due to the first time you tried EMV with the first few versions that came out in the market, to some that you're not, you're really hesitant to move forward with because it may not work with your application. So that's what we're seeing there with the opportunity with our new EMV solution on our API.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I want to call this out as we get into this call. Some of you may feel like we're going to talk about some technical stuff. Some of you may see that we're going to talk a little bit about sales stuff. we've got a pretty broad audience on today's call between sales agents and developers. So we're going to try to pander a little bit to both of you guys. Kevin will keep it pretty high level, but just to be aware. Kevin, you brought up the 2.0 reader, the new Augusta, which looks pretty sweet. Still pretty new. We've had it for a few months now. But I want to ask our audience here today on this call, how many of you have actually used the new Augusta reader, at least in the capacity of the virtual terminal? So we got the poll on the screen right now. Let's go ahead and take about 10 seconds to get some responses. I'd like to see really how that's taken off.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many, have had their hands on this device yet. And some of our partners are very familiar. We work with keyboard emulated swipers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we brought that functionality to EMV to work with the virtual terminal. So if you haven't seen it yet, especially for the virtual terminal, please check it out. I think you'll really love it as an EMV solution.
Yeah, it's funny. On a lot of my trainings, I bring up the new solution, and it sounds like it's still so new to market that most people haven't even heard of it. So it's really cool to be able to be kind of one of the front early adopters on this new device. All right, team, I'm going to go ahead and end that. Looks like a majority, about 85% of us have not used this yet, but there's still a few of us that have. I'd love to hear some feedback from some of you guys that have used it. But if you haven't, right, great opportunity to check it out. So Kevin, so this works with integrations. This is opening up new markets. How do you really see this fitting in the marketplace, right? What types of merchants are leveraging EMV through integrations?
Yeah, it's been interesting to see so far with some of the early beta work and some of our early adopters of the EMV solution with their payment software. As most of you already know, PayTrace, we really function in the back office, right? We really function very well in the back office to be able to process transactions and do level 3, level 2. However, some of those merchants in the back office still have a front office, right? Still taking transactions in the front, their retail side. And this is a way to extend. We've had some of those partners saying, man, I love that I can use PayTrace on the back end, but I wish I had the capability to take EMV in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen that with some of the merchants we have. Now they have that capability. One software company we worked with was actually just a distributor, an ERP software that managed distributors for textile and clothing. And they really just did a lot of card not present. However, they still had some customers using their software who took retail in the front and wanted to use their ERP software for retail in the front. And that software partner of ours was able to implement this solution to bring that value to their customers and that new functionality.
So that kind of brings a good transition, right? These guys implemented this new technology. I've heard some feedback about difficulty of implementing, an EMV, a payment device into code, right? Yeah. Into development, into a software. What's kind of the feedback and maybe the differentiators with this device on PayTrace compared to what else we've seen and heard about in the market?
Yeah, so some of the devices we've heard out there are, and I appreciate some of the agents out there that have worked with these devices and shared information with us about it. We've heard and seen devices that require connecting device to the merchant's network, needing to plug it into a router, finding a router to plug it into, the cord's not long enough, or setting it up for a Wi-Fi device that might be out there that does EMV, and being able to have to configure that device to connect to the network, set up the configuration. So essentially you're becoming a network engineer at some point. And then with the developer side, with the engineers, they're having to write code to try to communicate with those devices, and even at times creating their own additional custom code to be able to communicate with that device, because that custom code is not available in the documentation of how it should work with their implementation of if they're a native application that's installed on Windows or Mac OS, or if they're a SaaS application that's web-based and they're trying to communicate with that device. Those are some of the things we've heard out there in the market with those devices. So
how does PayTrace work? Are we like that?
No, that's a great question. So we've always been with our devices that we've worked with for card acceptance.
Uh-huh.
Card present has been keyboard emulated. we've seen that's been the best solution. The device functions like a keyboard, is able to interact with the browser and applications. And we've brought that functionality to EMV. And I'd love to just show a little bit of that as well today. I'll show you that, Sam?
Yeah, you brought up before that you want to show the world. So let's see it. I'm excited.
Yes. So let me share my screen and I'll show, some of the things that we've done in the past, and I'll show where we're at today. So I have my client up, a little bit of code here. As Sam said, we're going to get a little technical, and that's okay. This is a transaction that PayTrace has done with our card swiper, a regular card reader swiper, keyboard emulated, that we're able to do today, and that we've done in the past for card present transactions. You can see that it just required a few lines of code, and you were able to execute and process a transaction with the PayTrace API.
Sure.
So what we've done now, I'm just going to bring up my text editor here, is we have the EMV device, right? The Augusta reader. I'm just going to dip in my card here and just show you how it reads the device, the keyboard emulation factor of it. It's beeping at me, telling me to take it out. And there's my card data. It's encrypted upon chip, right? Upon chip, dipping the card into the chip reader. And now what you're able to do is, once you have that value, that encrypted value for the card information, you're able to take our new API request for EMV. And as you can see, it's very similar. Less lines of code. We need the amount, put in the keyboard emulated data, and submit the transaction, and you'll get back the response, and you have EMV. And that's how simple we've tried to make this solution for our software partners and developers to be able to add EMV to their softwares or custom applications they might be building. Whether if it's a SaaS-based company that's looking to add EMV, or if it's a company that works with a native application, they're able to utilize this. So we're really excited about bringing this to our partners who have been looking for an EMV, an upgrade path to EMV, or even just a different solution that'll function with their application.
For sure. So I'm not tech savvy. I look at this and it's Greek to me, right? It's like a foreign language.
Yeah.
I see a lot of numbers and stuff. So from somebody that's maybe not developer savvy, it pretty much sounds like I'm hearing this phrase keyboard emulation.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's kind of a pretty easy way for a developer to take this and run with it.
It's been one of the greatest features in the past, to be able to just get the device to function as a keyboard, right? To be able to just get that data, not to make very many different configurations or have to write very many lines to get that information from the device. So we've got some great feedback from the developers who've had their hands on this, where they were, some have shared, man, well, I'm glad you guys brought this out, because I was really hesitant to go towards adding an EMV device and the code that was going to be necessary. Some have even invested in trying to write code to some of the EMV devices we spoke about previously. Mm-hmm. And they saw this device, and it really took them to, it really made them feel confident that they could grab this and go, right?
Well, what's cool is just, what was it, this week or late last week, we hopped on a call with one of our early adopters, because we wanted to get some feedback from them on how their experience was setting up the Augusta reader, and if there's any ways that we can improve on it. Are you comfortable sharing some of that info with the group today?
Yeah. So one of our early adopters brought to us, one of our software partners brought to us by one of our ISOs, is a retail point of sale archery management software, point of sale software. So their software is SaaS based. And, archery stores will use it to manage memberships, allow customers to purchase products in store, on site. So with this organization, what they were using before, they were partnered with a very large acquirer in the industry and working with a wireless deja vu device.
Right.
Some of the things they were experiencing were the lack of support and service from the acquirer, and then the necessary work that their operations team had to go through to help a customer get set up on the device once it was configured. And then the engineering team shared with us the challenges that they were experiencing when they wrote the integration for that device into their application. And just to circle back what we spoke about, some of the challenges they saw, they were one of the engineers was one who had to rewrite the code, had to write a new module to make sure that the device was constantly connected before it would process. So our ISO partner brought PayTrace in. We showed them what we had available. We had a discovery call, and we got the information over to the developer. He signed up for a sandbox account, got the API documentation, reviewed it, and in the same day, he was able to complete an EMV integration. So EMV integration, new to PayTrace, grabbed the sandbox, grabbed the documentation, had EMV into their application within that day. And they were able to test and get it rolled out relatively, I want to say within a week to a customer.
Yeah, that was amazing feedback that we got. And I think the two things that stand out from what you just mentioned, right, is the ease of installment.
Yeah.
Right. It was pretty easy to write the code for this. The installment on it was super simple. But I think one thing that really resonated from that call was the level of service that they talked about. We've had Homero Gonzalez, who works on our developer support team on a Power30 previously. And he does an amazing job at just helping navigate, right, basically from start to finish, making sure that merchants get set up the way that they need to. That's pretty fair?
Yeah, it was. They shared with us that it was such a great experience that they decided to move their 60 plus merchants from that acquirer and that device over to PayTrace, to PayTrace and our ISO partner. So that speaks volumes, right? To be able to say, hey, we like this experience. Our customers like the experience. We want to move everything that we have here to PayTrace and to the ISO partner we have. Very validating.
And what's interesting, I think, from this specific example is you mentioned this is an archery range software.
Yeah.
Right. How much B2B do you think they accept, or have we found that they've accepted?
Yeah, it's very little, right? We talked about who benefits from this, and we did talk about the back office, and now the front office is able to take transactions. But yeah, we're seeing some retail locations starting to come and look at the solution and implement it into their applications and softwares.
And I think that's just a good shout out that this isn't just a B2B solution, right? This will still work with the level 2 and level 3 processing, the interchange optimization. But when it comes down to it, some of the really key benefits is just the simplicity of it and the 5-star level of service.
Absolutely.
Which is huge. I'm seeing some questions come in here. So Kevin, do you mind if I take a quick pause and just get through a couple of these before we transition?
Yeah, absolutely.
Question here, just asking about, is this on the virtual terminal, right? We're talking very integration heavy right now, but EMV 2.0, right? How does that plays with both?
Yeah, EMV 2.0 works with our virtual terminal and it works with our API as well.
That's awesome. A question here from Kevin, and not you, Kevin, unless you're planning in some questions here. Kevin's asking, how, as a developer, can I get one of these devices to build out our API with the new features?
That's a great question, Kevin. And I believe you just reach out to us, Kevin. We'll be able to help you out. But we are working with different hardware vendors. Sam, help me if I forget a few of them. But we're working with POS Portal, Barcodes, the Phoenix Group. Did I leave one out there as well?
CDE.
Yep. And so those are the hardware vendors that you can actually reach out to and get those devices with.
Yeah. And they're pretty affordable too. I think I saw a question about costs in here. What is the cost, and Carmela, what is the cost and how do we purchase the device? James shared an answer, Carmela, about our ordering page. It's just on our help site, help.paytrace.com. Look at the recommended hardware. We link out to all of those different hardware providers. But these, I believe we've seen these run at about the $140 to $150 per device price point. Sounds about right?
About right, yeah.
Yeah. So they're pretty cost effective, especially when you compare them to a lot of the other solutions that are out there.
Absolutely.
This one's a long one, but it's from my guy Michael, and I want to read this out because it's good feedback. So Michael was one of our early adopters on EMV, and he's chiming in. He says, "Love the EMV 2.0 solution and the mustache, Sam." Had to throw that in there. Works smoothly as advertised with different internet browsers and really is plug and play via USB. He has a few merchants using it now and they love it as well. He's going to be transitioning a couple from the previous EMV solution to this new one. Yeah, sounds like it's been a pretty seamless transition. So Michael, I love that feedback. I'm going to steal that and I'm going to use that in all my trainings moving forward.
Yeah, he's getting that baby Burt Reynolds, Michael. He's getting there.
I trimmed it up a little bit before this call. I had to look good. All right. So team, keep sending in your EMV questions because we want to hear it, but I do want to bring up something else new in the API world with PayTrace. And it's a thing that we're calling PayTrace Protect. Kevin, what is PayTrace Protect?
PayTrace Protect, so we just talked about EMV a minute ago, which is a form of card acceptance for our merchants and our partners, right? That's the card present side, the face-to-face side. PayTrace Protect is for the e-commerce side. So it is a hosted solution to be able to accept sensitive payment information securely with PayTrace. And I know some of you are aware of PayTrace's hosted checkout page or hosted payment page that we have. This is the next, the next iteration, next version of that. And it allows your developers to be able to, the developers out there and software partners out there who are accepting sensitive payment information to use a JavaScript library built with React to be able to accept, credit card information, CSC code, expiration dates, and allow you the capability and flexibility to be able to style it and implement it so you can control the user interface and the user experience. Sam.
So I want to ask our team, because you have a visual for this as well. And I think for somebody that's not tech savvy like myself, the visual helped out for me to grasp this. But I want to ask the team on this call real quick, right? This PayTrace Protect is really going to be a type of hosted payments tool solution. Yep. How many of you guys on this call have implemented some type of hosted payment solution? Either you're on the sales side and you've set a merchant up with one, or you're on the developer side and you've actually developed something out. I'm going to leave this up for just a few seconds. We'll keep this one moving pretty quick. And we will end it. Awesome. Funny, this is almost a complete inverse of the previous poll. About 80 to 85% of folks on this call have implemented some type of hosted payment solution for a merchant. So Kevin, I'm interested. What does this look like, right? Do you mind showing us a demo of this?
Yeah, I'll show a demo. What I'm going to do first, everybody, is I'm going to show PayTrace's hosted payment page and talk about that, and then we'll transition over to Protect and talk through that. So let me bring up the hosted payment page, the hosted secure checkout page you're familiar with. And this is what PayTrace provides today. It's a redirect so your merchants redirect their cardholders to this page to enter their sensitive payment information. And what we've learned from the feedback of customers using this product is that, hey, Kev, we want to be able to brand it, right? We want to be able to brand it so when our customers redirect to the page, they see our branding. And so, we help them get there. So here's an example. We have Jurassic Park here. We were able to get a logo, a header, change some of the colors to be able to get it to match to their theme. But we kept hearing that developers and merchants wanted to take it further. They wanted to take it further. They wanted to remove some of these fields, add their own custom fields, even to the point, I want to control the user experience and the user interface, but I also want to keep it secure. So that's where we came out with Protect. And here's an example of Protect on one of our demo pages that we created. So here's a basic checkout page here. In this, actually, the credit card number, expiration date, and security code is hosted by PayTrace. And just to show that, I'm going to open up some developer tools here. I'm just going to bring up our tool down here at the bottom, and I'm going to show the elements of this page. And we can see the iframe here that's been called out and highlighted. You can see here it's hosted by PayTrace. So now your checkout page has all the customizations you want. And PayTrace is now becoming a smaller footprint on your checkout process to be able to collect the sensitive payment information you want us to collect. And you can even style it. You can style this form, this iframe here to make it fit to your checkout process and pages and styling that you have. And so with this product, in addition to not only being able to accept the credit card information and minimize you to the smallest amount of PCI SAQ, right, which is SAQA, because PayTrace is hosting this field. It gives you the capability to not only process transactions, but you're able to create customers. So if you're an organization or a software partner, or you have a software partner that needs to tokenize payment information, this solution will do that. It'll take the customer information, store it in the database, PayTrace database, provide them back the software partner back a token for them to use. So not using sensitive payment information there. In addition, they can also do a sale and customer at the same time. So you can process a transaction. Once approved, it'll save the customer and store them in the database. So you have some flexibility here with this product.
So if I'm breaking down a lot of what you just said,
yeah.
Secure, right? It's basically allowing a merchant to build a payment solution into their, what it looks like, site, but it's using PayTrace as the host. So everything's SAQA with this.
Absolutely. So, it's there, and you can see there's not a redirect. We're still, the customer's still on the same page entering our information. And so this is, as I stated, it's all hosted and outsourced to PayTrace for this payment information. And I will go ahead and even process a transaction here just to give an idea.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to just do a sale.
And I am noticing the URL does not say paytrace.com, right? You are on this website, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's some feedback we had as well. Hey, can I change the URL? So now I'm going to process the transaction. And this is on the demo page. This is the response we created to give the visual. But we can see here the transaction was completed. We'll post back to the page and we'll give the response of that transaction for you to be able to handle that transaction or do whatever steps you'd like to take next in regards to how you want that experience to be for your customers.
That rocks. So I think my original response to this is, when is this going to be available to the public?
It is available right now. If you take a look at our API documentation at developers.paytrace.com, you'll be able to see Protect is available and live and ready to go. We're actually going to be launching it around October, but it is available to use now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to leave a little bit of space for some questions. There's one from Carrie in here asking where can she get some more information on PayTrace Protect. She wants to get this over to her different web partners.
Yeah. So, Carrie, you can reach out to us, developer support at paytrace.com. And our developer support team will be able to help answer any questions yourself or your software partners may have, or your developers may have, to be able to implement Protect. And you can even actually schedule a time with one of our developer support representatives to talk through this as well.
Yeah, and I would add to anybody that's interested in PayTrace Protect or EMV 2.0 with some type of integration, that's probably the best route for you guys to go to if you'd like to see a demo, or hey, right, you want to have like a consultation call with our team. Again, just send that request to developer support at paytrace.com.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more questions in here. John is asking about the roadmap for mobile for EMV on PayTrace Go. Are you able to share anything on that, Kevin?
I'll give just a little bit. We're working towards that right now. You may have seen that PayTrace released a new version, an update to the PayTrace Go application recently, and that is to have the new code we have available that we're working into for EMV 2.0 on that device, working towards getting that implemented. So we're getting closer there, and stay tuned.
Awesome. I've got a question here from John about pricing for Protect. Is that separate from API, or is that just wrapped in with PayTrace's API?
That's a great question. It's wrapped into PayTrace's API. So if you enable the API module on your merchant's PayTrace professional account, it'll make that product will be available for them to utilize.
Perfect. That's really easy.
Yeah.
Yep, had a couple questions on that. Carrie asked the same thing. guys, there's a couple questions here that I think are best taken offline, and we are at time. So if you didn't have your question answered on today's call, Kevin and I will be reviewing the questions later this afternoon and getting you a response by the end of this week. I would also offer up, if you have any sales opportunities, if you're more on the sales side of things, or if you are an integrator that is interested in being a partnered integration solution with PayTrace, reach out to our sales team at sales@paytrace.com. We'd love to open up some dialogues with you and see where we can find a good fit. Kevin, I want to thank you, man. This was some really good information today. A lot of good interaction on here. Hopefully we can have you back out here sometime soon.
Yeah, we will. And I appreciate everybody being here today and, and adding us to your webinar lineup now that we're all working from home, right? So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much. Again, expect some follow-up stuff. Our marketing team's going to send out some follow-up materials and some links to some really good resources that we have for EMV and for our API. So stay tuned for that in the next few days, and hope to see you out here on the next one. Take care.